Hello and welcome back to the Rockin' Blizzard Arena here in Burbank, California. We just saw MVP Black claim their seat for Blizzcon at the Anaheim Convention Center next weekend. We got our losers matchup here in Group A about to take place. That's Tempo Storm versus Deadlykittens. And now, taking the reins at the analyst desk, you know her, you love her, the powerhouse of the Nexus, JC Gillyweed Gluck.
That's right. Thank you, Kevin. And that is correct. I've taken over. Look at me. I'm the desk host now. How's it going, guys? How's it going, Jay-How?
I don't know, but you actually commanded that, and we all that's so embarrassing. Like, oh no! I looked over, I saw everyone else. I'm like, God, she just got us like debated so
she
hard.
Can get bossy, believe me.
Yeah, get used to it. Guys, we're here. It's day one of opening week. I'm so stoked to be up here. We're going to give Caleris a chance to cast, believe with Dreadnought. And we are going to talk about the first elimination match of the whole event. It's Tempo Storm. It's Deadlykitten. What are your thoughts?
It's going to be really interesting because right now, when we looked at the group, everybody expected to see, okay, how does Tempo Storm measure up against China? So far, it was not really the performance they were hoping for. And now, of course, everybody is saying, well, let's see if Tempo Storm can beat the Deadlykittens, because that could be a major upset right now for one of the major regions, as all of a sudden the Kittens come out swinging.
Yeah, really, Tempo Storm, through this entire international event, they've been at every single one, and yet they have only been able to defeat Red Canids. Technically, they did Soul Torturers 2 at the mid-season brawl when you consider the tiebreaker, but let's take a look at the bracket so far. Trixler, are you surprised at all that we see MVP Black get out without losing a game?
I don't think anyone is. MVP Black coming into this tournament, there was whispers of they are back and they are scary, and they showed why here. 4-0 in their first two matches. They'll be advancing to next weekend, so very excited to see that. I was actually more impressed to see how great CE is looking. Even in their losses against MVP Black, they're looking wonderful, even with the sub.
That was the story backstage. We're all like, wow, like CE is staying with them. Kevin's like, I got some questions to ask him. Like, did they expect CE to come out, and be as strong as they were? I mean, did MVP Black look good? Yeah, of course. Sure. But I think everybody might have expected more dominance. And I think that's more of the testament of CE as opposed to MVP Black. They look strong, they look great, but CE, I think, actually did a pretty good job holding with them.
Yeah, CE definitely looks to be the team who will probably be going out along with MVP Black unless we see this next team really fire up and come online. Now, looking at Deadlykittens, we know that they have a different roster than the Deadlykittens we have known before. Jay-How, you're friends with these guys. Yeah. Has communication been an issue at all for them since they are speaking in a few different languages?
It has, and noticeably so. And they've told us before that they just kind of expect Jen to basically follow the leader at that point.
Yeah, they mentioned that he pings. He's like, I have clans ready.
Literally barely speaks any English, and at times, you could overhear some of the communications. And one of the players asked me, are they speaking multiple language? I'm like, yeah. So at times you'll have Confidence, who's the other Korean player. He'll speak in Korean towards his ally there, and then at the same time, the Filipino players, if they feel like there's a hasty call to be made, they speak in Tagalog, their mother tongue, and it's just like, so you have three different languages that can at times come out here. They make it work for their region, but on the bigger stage, obviously, it makes it a little bit more problematic.
That's my issue, is it does look like there is communication issues when you're watching this team. It almost seems like one person jumps the gun, and then everybody follows up afterwards, which is very scary when you're 1 to 2 seconds off in timings, especially against high-caliber play. Now, with that being said, with old Tempo Storm, that would be a type of style that could actually beat them. But we did just see in the last series that they were a little bit more forward with their aggression, so maybe it'll be a good matchup.
I'm actually a bit worried when it comes to the drafting and also the strategies that they oftentimes used. I watched a couple of the games, or quite a few that they had in their qualifier, and they admitted later on in interviews that we had that they didn't really feel in the right place at the time, but there were some fundamental problems in their drafting and the way that they approached certain maps where they just didn't realize strengths that their own draft had and weaknesses in the opponents. And I feel we could already see that to an extent, of course, against MVP Black earlier. Everybody here has been talking about Meridian, for example, and it was completely ignored by them. They didn't respect it at all. They had a very clear idea of what they are afraid of, but I really feel they hit the wrong mark there. So they were, for example, terrified about Malthael and banned him out several times. Meridian is something that they didn't respect whatsoever, and they got punished for it. And we only saw a very small sample size, but this is something where I'm interested to see, are they going to change the MO here now heading into the next match, or is it going to be something where they just stick with the idea that they currently have?
I will say this. When I was in Singapore, you talked about their poor drafting. They recognize it. Literally the very next morning, I'm logged in, we're preparing, we're ready to go. He whispers to me, he's like, our drafts were so bad yesterday. He literally just like came to me. I never said a word to him. That's just a pop-up whisper. There's the pink text. He's like, our drafts are bad. I'm like, okay, is it going to be better today? Yeah, they ended up winning and claiming their spot here at Blizzcon the opening week. But I think maybe the recognition, as you said, could potentially, but it's a very short turnaround today.
I was very happy when they said it in the interviews. Without being prompted, they immediately said, like, yes, our drafts in the qualifier were horrible. And I was just like, okay, cool, they know. So
that becomes the question, right? They understand and they identify that they need to grow, but have they had the time and the room to actually grow as a team?
Exactly.
Well, let's switch over to their opponents now and talk about Tempo Storm. Deadlykittens themselves have not won a series at any international event they've been at this year, but Tempo Storm has also struggled a lot. Even when they are dominant within their region in North America, it just seems like something happens to them when they get on land. Did you feel like that was happening again here? Or do you, Trixler, you were even mentioning that you felt like changes were being made.
I talked to Caldor afterwards and he called me a bit of a Care Bear. Like, I feel like there has been progress here from what we've seen in the international event. I don't think we're seeing the confidence that we would normally get from them in the North America region when they're playing.
Fair.
But I'm seeing a movement, and that makes me happy.
To what extent, though?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is it enough?
I wanted to be there. I wanted to hear what Caldor said, because I'm raising the same question here.
The one thing that I find funny is that you mentioned how they are really excelling in their own region, then they come to an offline event and they start losing games. The interesting part is they lose always against their own region. So
yeah, they've been eliminated every event by a North American
exactly,
team.
by NA. So they win online and offline, there seems just to be this blockade. And as you said, like, to what degree has that progress really been there? And I mean, I'm really disappointed by the performance overall. So I was hoping, when we're looking at North America, we're looking mostly at Roll20. They come in with a lot of confidence. They are the team that everybody says, okay, we're going to take this. Then Team Freedom. I wanted to see where Tempo Storm is right now, and currently I'm not convinced.
Well, it starts with the draft. So let's get started for our first elimination match. We're looking at the Battleground pool for this best of 3. Tempo Storm banning Infernal Shrines, standard for them. Deadlykittens banning Braxis Holdout, and Deadlykittens has chosen to take us to Cursed Hollow.
If I were...
Or Tempo Storm. One of the teams has chosen to take us to Cursed Hollow.
That is an accurate assessment, Gilly. But this is a very interesting pick for me, because Tempo Storm, if there's one thing that we've ever said about them, is that they have a very slow and methodical pace. They never really push the pedal to the metal half the time. They don't know, they're never really aggressive. But what they do is they play these long style battlegrounds that they'll eventually just wear you down until they eventually win. And this is a map that I see Tempo Storm, this is basically them in a nutshell.
Tempo Storm is such an interesting team for me, because I have to admit that after the Western Clash, the way they performed, and as soon as they went out, I was just like, this team is done. This team is absolutely done. And then in the season, they come back, and it really impressed me how well they came together at the boot camp when they were saying, hey, we are going to fight for the playoffs, and we are going to make it to BlizzCon. And before all of that started, I said, there's no way. All of a sudden, they really show up. It's a completely different team. There's synergy again. There's aggression. They take opportunities. And I was really impressed. I really loved it. But I didn't see that in the first game they played today. If they can show that now, I think they will take this, but that's the one doubt I have.
One has to wonder if it's a mentality issue at this point. When going to an international event, I mean, 3 times in a row they have failed. This is
Psyching themselves out.
Yeah, exactly. Are they getting to a point here where they don't have the momentum that they can get in their own region? And can they find a way to break through that? I think, luckily for them, the Deadlykittens might be a matchup that they can win here. So we got to see them break through now.
I want to give you one small tidbit before we get too deep into the draft, because I was talking to Deadlykittens, and they have a hero that they've referred to.
Okay, here.
Have a hero.
But that's the thing, is like, I know who the hero is. I'm not going to tell you who it is. But if it comes up, don't be surprised, because they literally refer to it as Weapon X. That is it's their code word for if it's the right moment. They wanted to pick it. They wanted to pick it. It might happen.
It's good to know that they have a code name for Gazlo.
Well, here we go into game 1. This is a best of 3. This is the best of 3 for these teams, because the loser is out of this event.
I want to see what kind of priority Tempo Storm now has for Malthael, because it's a hero that
it's always high for them.
Exactly. Like, overall, I would expect it. They changed it up already a little bit with Genji and Mirrodin here, which I actually like. But overall, it feels that North America, especially compared to other major regions, is currently prioritizing Malthael more than anyone else. By no means is he a bad hero, But for them, it oftentimes was such a high priority that other regions and teams have now started to even ban it immediately against them.
I wonder now, with Genji being a high priority here for Tempo, Deadlykittens loves the double support. We have a big battleground. Maybe Brightwing becomes an early pickup. We've seen a lot of strength from her, deals with Genji very well.
Brightwing is absolutely fantastic in a really good spot right now, to an extent where I personally ask myself how much Gili paid the development team to make that change happen for Blizzcon.
It's always
I plead
something.
the fifth.
Cador's always thinking about bribes and all these mysterious, like,
Because
conspiracies. that are
Brightwing
happening.
has bribed
There's no way
Trixler.
they can enjoy Brightwing being
I
played.
have my conspiracy theorist in Dreadnought. You have yours in Caldor.
That's, oh my gosh, man. Some of the things this guy says in the car ride home. I just want to check out for the day.
I remember our car rides
had
back
an
in
agreement.
Taiwan. Trixler
Yeah.
and I talked about Rexar and Artanis. I don't even know what you guys talk about.
You know that I can go that deep, too.
I
That's
know,
how far
right?
you can tell me. ETC and Sonya picked up strong front lines here for the Deadlykittens. They are intending to bring the fight to Tempo Storm.
Yeah, so we talk about Brightwing for a couple of reasons, as we are now having, of course, ETC and Sonya in. But just ETC and Sonya add another reason why Brightwing would be a good choice here. If you have Genji and you combine Brightwing with a double support composition, you can really, with Emerald Wind, create a lot of opportunities once that Genji makes the commitment. But right now, you also have her as a control tool against Sonya once that Whirlwind starts, or ETC. So I would really love either a ban on the side of the Deadlykittens against her, or a pickup on the side of Tempest Storm. I really feel that she would fit even better into the draft now with what we are having here.
I know the meta's sped up a lot, but still, with Uther still floating around, could that still be an option available for the Genji if they were to leave that up?
I think it's high probability.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'd rather ban that.
The biggest thing is with
Double
the
support.
The double support thing. One of the biggest detriments to a Rhaegar in the backline is, like, no matter how much protection you have, you get a Genji, you get through the Rhaegar, he's burning Ancestral because he knows he's about to die, and then he's out of the fight. And generally, you can get that early kill and then just start to roll from there.
You can definitely play with a double support on the side of Tempo Storm if you want to here. You already have with Muradin also another great engage, of course. So keep in mind, when we're looking at Genji and Muradin, with the old idea of Muradin, you don't really expect him to be that guy that jumps way deep into your backline. But that's the change that we now are in because of the recent patch. 116 is hit. With Genji and Muradin, you can get massive commitments with super aggression into the backline, and no one is safe there. So that's one of the things that Tempo Storm could also spec in. Hyper mobility and try to just like completely drive the fight with momentum.
The further point about that is that if you do go in, you've got an ETC, you've got a Sonya, you need some type of cleanse, some type of protection at that point. You could even go Hand of Protection, plus you have the Divine Shield. So you have like that double form of protection to really enable that, plus the added armor once you hit that wave of light in there. So we'll see what their thoughts are as we're now through all of our bans.
On a banned out, that Brightwing and Uther are available. Brightwing Uther could still even work here, but you have to be a bit too careful. Maybe you're a bit all in on the idea of your Genji and Muradin being the main disruption for Tempo Storm.
There's definitely a lot of options that you have with what you can play in this case right now. So first of all, we talked about Brightwing a lot. We have Uther still with a combo with Dragon Blade, Divine Shield. But there's also, if you want to go into full mobility, you can, for example, still think about Tyrael, especially the Korean and the Chinese teams are looking heavily into into Tyrael play. But as you pointed out a bit earlier, on this map in particular, Tyrael is just super strong, and he opens up so much. So if you want to go for heavy dive, that's another opportunity you have.
I think I agree with there, but with it being Tempo Storm, man, they haven't played Tyrael in forever, it feels like. The Muradin, Genji. Malthier or Dahaka was kind of the pickup here for Cattle, and Cattle's been favoring that Malthier so much lately that he moves straight into it.
I mean, they finally get Malthier. Finally, a game where he's not banned out against them.
Let's drop the beat here. I think Lucio, natural counter towards Malthiel the minute that goes out, as well as Genji to really try and survive that burst. Once you can get through that initial burst, it will really help. NSJ, of course, going to be on the gray main per usual. Now, guys, with Tempo Storm, Brightwing is still available if they want to go that double. In the 3 of the 4 games after Western Clash, they had Genji in 3 of those. The other one was banned out first ban. Also, in all of their games, the last 5 games on record, they all had a global in some form or fashion, one of those being an Abathur at that point, but Abathur banned. So they have tendencies on this, and they've kind of got that. I think they can get that with the Brightwing, get that global, get that double support, but I don't know. I don't know how that fits them right now.
Could they run solo support here and just go for a range? I feel like they could pull it off, but it would still be quite difficult. We've seen so much double support from them and a majority of the teams, honestly.
To be honest, I really like what we're having on the side of the Deadlykittens now. If Lucio drops the sound barrier just in time when Malthael drops his own ult, it's going to be extremely difficult for Tempo Storm to get anything done with this setup here. So the tools that the Kittens have are amazing. If they use them right, Tempo Storm is going to be in trouble.
The scariest thing is that in game one, or in our first series with MVP Black, we heard the beat getting dropped, and Muradin, as you alluded to, now a threat when he dives in. He hit the heavy impact, stalled out, dropping it. He interrupted the channel, and at that point, that fight really turned because they didn't have that. It goes on a 10-second cooldown.
Stop the beat.
It stopped the beat.
I mean, if you look at the draft that we have right now, we have basically what we talked about at the start when we saw the initial 2 picks on the side of Tempo Storm. We have Brightwing and Uther. So you have the Divine Shield for Genji, you have the commitment and the safety for him to go into the backline. And at the same time, Brightwing has not only the global available, we have good control against ETC and against Sonya. What I'm really worried about is outside of the Divine Shield Dragonblade, the kill potential for Tempo Storm, because I think that the Kittens have a great draft, and if they manage Malthael, then they should be in a spot where they can deal with them.
Gilly, I'm curious. What do you think here? Is this something that Tempo Storm can win?
This is something that Tempo Storm runs a lot. In fact, you guys were hypothesizing what was going to be paired a lot with the Genji. Definitely thought that that would be Malthael to go with it. They like running that heavy melee style, putting them together, Tormented Souls as the setup, and then Dragonblade to come in and as the finisher. And for them, they like running out on this battleground. Sometimes they even bring in an Abathur. But because Lucio couldn't be banned out, because Lucio got through, I am just as concerned as you guys are about Sound Barrier and how effective that Tormented Souls is going to be, because Caterpillar struggled a lot with his Tormented Souls in the last series.
I want to see, because the priority target when you jump in as Muradin will be the Lucio. One thing that you can do, whether it's jumping in as Muradin or whether it's going to be E'ing in as Genji, you come in, Emerald Wind splits. Because it hits, it counts as like that minor interrupt, that minor stun. You also have the heavy impact now, which is far earlier in the game, makes your team fighting at level 10 and beyond very threatening. I think that's going to be a high priority, choosing those opportunities. But timing and communication, as one of our key points that we talked about early, are going to be a very, very heavy emphasis, I think, this game.
Well, guys, our casters are ready. Greymane?
Yeah, I mean, Greymane is also going to be a huge threat. And it could be to an extent where if Muradin gets too aggressive, you can actually go away from go for the throat for once, drop into the bullet, and you have an ETC slide after Muradin jumps in, and you can try to burst him if he plays too aggressive. But Greymane in the setup, if he plays well, I think that's a huge threat to Tempo Storm.
Well, let's see how Greymane and everyone does in this elimination match. Let's head on over to our caster desk.
That's right, as Gilly mentions here, it's the most important series for these two teams going into their 2017 careers if they want to continue their hopes on in BlizzCon. Of course, Kyle is here with Dreadnought to bring you all the action from this series. And Dreadnought, I'm extremely excited to see how both of these teams are going to try and approach their last chance.
I completely agree. And here with the draft to Tempo Storm, I feel like the NOSS put it perfectly here. It does feel like it's going to be a tall tale, them sticking to their guns, sticking to what they know. And the question is really, is it enough to be able to even overcome an opponent from, you know, a non-league region like the Deadlykittens?
Very important. As we're getting into the game here in just a few moments' time to find out who's going to be able to keep themselves alive. And for Tempo Storm, they have not necessarily a lot of weight on their shoulders because North America seems to be well represented here in Roll20 and Team Freedom. But for Tempo Storm, they were the kings of North America for a long time. Has that time passed?
I think it has. And I feel like this series is really going to be the thing that locks it in, the nail in the coffin for Tempo Storm. But to kick it off, in the blue here, we have Deadlykittens with that Jinwoo on Rhaegar Confidence repping the Lucio. You know, we're going to have Enavir on the Sonya. Sonya is such a high impact hero throughout the meta and this tournament. And last we got NSJ on his Greymane. Oh, we got stronger on ETC. I can't count to 5. Caster math already nailed it.
All good. Onto the right-hand side. It's Tempo Storm. June going to be representing Uther. Fury will be on the Muradin. Next up, Chthonlok will be playing that Brightwing. And we have Assam on Genji, finally rounding things out. Caterpillar will be on the Malthael. And I thought that the Malthael for them was really the key to unlocking some of the previous games that we saw from them. Can that be a key here?
I would like to say the answer to that is yes. It has been a continuous go-to strategy for Tempo Storm throughout all of the North America Phase 2 Part 2. But it does feel like it's kind of lost its, you know, flavor a bit when it comes to the meta with the recent patches here. And it is a bit surprising to see Tempo Storm so locked in on that Malthael.
An attempt potentially up towards the top lane here, as Fury was already positioning himself with the Muradin, with Sam also lurking in the wings for confidence. Great scout out there to originally try and push that off of June.
Yeah, and June getting a lot of pressure there. He's going to go ahead and have to drop back. Fury joining in. Psalm, though, is getting punished quite heavily there by Jinwoo on that Rhaegar. Never can you look past the Rhaegar, one of the highest damage supports in the game. But I want to highlight, if you watch, actually, Fury missed a dwarf toss over the wall there in another situation where it seems like he's just not up to snuff here. He's struggling here at this international level.
I like the confidence is using his mobility along that wall to use the scouting technique for when Fury's potentially trying to dive in there and really put on some pressure, because he is the most mobile. He's the one that's going to get away out of those three.
Absolutely. Anytime you're on the Lucio, if you aren't afraid of the initiation, talking about one, we're going to have it up on top. Nice Stormbolt connected for Tempo Storm, but the double support is enough to keep everyone alive here.
And really a lot of the focus is on this top lane, right? Aside from the maybe Malthael Sonya, which could get a bit dicey from time to time if someone has a slight misplay, this is where our focus point is going to be for now. And as you can see, very patient plays with confidence, cycling around. Muradin's constantly actually gone down towards mid now whilst Brightwing repositions.
Yeah, and this is because those Giants are about to come online. Malthael's looking to drop on back. Tempo Storm seems to be mirroring that kind of transition with Greymane and Rhaegar. Ultimately, up until we find the tribute spawning anywhere 215 and later on, we don't know who's going to gain the upper hand. No team has a major global, no team. Well, I guess Brightwing would give Tempo Storm a slight edge, but ultimately she doesn't push that hard to necessarily justify going a large advantage for Tempo.
The one attempt that you can try and get to equalize that on Deadlykittens is Lucio, but it's much slower.
Yeah.
It's fast. He's a fast guy.
Oh, yeah. He's pretty quick.
Yeah, he's pretty quick, but not quick enough. Here comes the tribute to start things off. Not too bad for either team because we have a 3 in each position. This actually favors the push from Tempo Storm because they have the Giants down towards the bottom, or they did initially while this was moving forward.
But it does kind of provide an awkward 1v1 on bottom because ultimately Sonya can't push as effectively because her wave clear comes through her E, which is going to be interrupted by that polymorph there. Channel attempt for confidence. Stormbolt not going to quite land there for Fury, but it's enough to at least zone off the members of Deadlykittens off this tribute.
And Tempo Storm understands what they have to do. Delay this, deal with the Giants, which is just next door. It's right there. There goes the power attempt on towards confidence. A lot of damage going on towards him. Lucio manages to get away, though, with that totem in place as well to get some healing going, and they managed to survive the onslaught.
Yeah, they're doing a very good job here using that passive healing between the Lucio and the Rhaegar in the long run. Now Cattle trying to throw it out and deter them. I'm just questioning, is Deadlykittens going to have enough threat up here to ever draw that Brightwing aggro, or do they even care at this point in time?
Yeah, it's because overall, it depends if they want the tribute or not. If they really want to have to commit, Sam is constantly poking at the back. Malthael wisely has actually gone and soaked that mid lane and come back here. So I feel like Tempo Storm is slowly eking out the advantages in this position.
And Sonya's actually not that effective into the 1v1 as I took a little bit of a look down on there. So ultimately, this is totally fine for both teams to go head-to-head 4 versus 4 over that top tribute. Malthael getting some soak up on mid, but Genji with a nice little shuriken drop in there, stopping another channel here. Deadlykittens about 2 minutes deep on this tribute and unable to obtain it.
Absolutely, and with the 2 minutes that you quote there, like, this is a very tactical, slow-paced attempt at trying to keep themselves alive. These two teams know the severity of the situation.
Brightwing left on her own on bottom for a small moment. Psalm going to dash on in to be able to get the interrupt, forcing the deflect. Now Fury drops the dwarf toss, gets the stun there. Polymorph coming right on line. Cattle, though, is caught out too far. Now that is going to be first blood for Deadlykittens, and maybe not done yet as Fury's has some dwarf toss.
And for Tempo Storm, was that the greed of them not bringing the Brightwing, considering that all of them were so low against a Lucio and Rhaegar that were up top? Almost always going to win out that sustained fight, because you said 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That was a lot of time there.
There was a long duration. I don't know if I would go as far as to use the word greed, but very much a strategic misplay on the side of Tempo Storm, biting off more than they can chew. But talking about biting off more than you can chew, so does Jinwoo up on top. Oh, but the boop saves him.
Very well done there. Trying to put on more pressure towards Sam. Doesn't quite catch him. He will get out there. That being said, Chthon has come up towards the top here, and might even die off for his troubles. No, they managed to save him at the very end. I'm always surprised about this boombox, by the way. Deadlykittens keep bringing it.
It has been, a go-to talent, actually, not only just within their region. There's been a surprising amount of boombox for me coming out even out of the Korean and Chinese regions. Ultimately, the talent, I'm torn on. I'm not sold yet, but I do love watching that come to life here at the international stage and put up that solid argument.
And it looks so happy. Look at it.
I mean, it's jamming out. It's having a good time.
Yeah.
Not as fast as Lucio, but I mean, he still looks like he's equally as enthusiastic.
He's very enthusiastic. That is true. That's 2 for 0 at the moment in terms of tributes. So Deadlykittens really getting a good position on this, and they've come in confident into this series. They feel like that they can beat Tempo Storm here, and if that happens, Tempo Storm going out in last place in this group could be quite the blow to them moving forwards into 2018.
And very contradicting towards the mentality, it seems, that they have displayed going into this tournament. Yes, Tempo Storm, again, is a team that has always felt confident at these international stages, but maybe not performing at the level that we expected of them. But again, this one has been a different one. For some reason, BlizzCon and the HGC finals seems to be like, maybe they have found the true key to overcome the struggles they have had this year, but right now, it is looking like that is not the case.
Cattle at level 4, going for Die Alone, kind of gearing up for the potential of him ended up in like one of those 1v1 situations, or even just on the outskirts of a fight, looking for more damage on that. Cattle does not manage to grab that. He's pushed away by another form of Cattle, as ETC is able to just get him out of there for the moment.
And with Brightwing joining in on this, Sonya's going to have a fine time getting the split push up on bottom, meaning Deadlykittens forfeit up the tribute, but again, they are just one tribute away to finding themselves a keep. Nothing to worry about at this point. And I am a bit surprised at the lack of, it's not so much lack of action, but the lack of deaths going on. It's been a very strategic, rotational game for both of these teams.
Again, I used the word severity before. I'm going to use it again, because that is the situation that both of these teams are in. You want to try and keep your hopes alive to go on to BlizzCon and play on that stage, because the amount of fans we have there, it's unparalleled for Heroes of the Storm. It's brilliant.
Still to this day, the most powerful moment I've ever experienced is being on that stage, the ground shaking, and people cheering for not only my success and my failure, but it is without a doubt something that I will never be able to relive, and I wish I could about every single day. That is what these guys are playing for.
So Dread 2018 Pro confirmed. As this Cattle for Stronger, going to be attacks here to begin things. NSJ trying to come in on towards Sam, though. He should be able to get away with the Brightwing shift in, and the dash away is safe for now. Very close.
But to burn that Brightwing teleport is the Giant sieging up on top. Perfectly timed for Deadlykittens. Tribute, curse point. Perfect positioning for them. Everything here is on the shoulders of Tempo.
Fury going very, very deep there, even popping Avatar quite early to try and keep himself alive in that situation. Here comes Tormented Souls as well. Caterpillar trying to rip apart some of this front line to start things off in it, and Enavia just bouncing back and forwards, not necessarily using his wrath to get that full engage.
And they immediately turn things around, dropping the mosh pit. We got a Dragon Blade, but it is not looking like it is too effective. Beautiful Emerald Wind hitting all 5 members of Deadlykitten, but when it's all said and done, they are significantly ahead of Tempo Storm, rounding the 13 talents here and a curse.
Tempo Storm's going to be Tormented Souls if they're not careful about this. That was 2 members dying off with the potential for more there, as Deadlykittens were able to turn that situation around with what I consider to be extremely good patience.
Absolutely, and it's paying off, as you see in our picture-in-picture, those Giants nearly securing the top forts. Now the boss, a curse, and 13 talents here. Tempo Storm seems to be crumbling under the pressure of Deadlykittens. They're going to stall out once more, trying to deny this curse.
Not a bad attempt. Sam just trying to get out of position of NSJ there. He's putting some pressure on. Cattle now going to try and put some pressure on against Enavia, but he was cleansed. He's going to be pushing forwards here with that spin to win as well, and he might end up going down.
Psalm not able to get that reset, so Tempo cannot even move in any farther, and I hate to break this to you, Caleris, but Confidence was channeling the tribute the entirety of that skirmish. That was effectively a 4 versus 5, and Tempo is still struggling to hold their own.
Deadlykittens here really bringing a strong performance to this first game with 3 tributes to 1, and that boss is pushing during a curse, and it's on full health. They're taking their Giants. Also, another nail here in the potential coffin if Tempo Storm isn't able to rectify the situation.
Those top Giants that started out long ago have found themselves all the way to the keep, drawing the Brightwing up to try and rid of that. But now the keep looking to break the base, walking into the keep here for the members of Deadlykittens. They walk in, Tormented Souls drop there for Kato. They're going to dive right on past us to try and force the fight.
They need to do something while that Tormented Souls is up. And now that they haven't got any kills off of that, here comes the Divine Shield as well as that shield from the entirety of Lucio, trying to keep them all alive. They're outlasting all of the damage coming towards them, but they're very clumped up right now.
If they're able to get one reset, but no, the Mosh, they're able to turn this thing around. Deadlykittens busting out the claws, now rounding a 3, almost 4 level lead. 3 members of Tempo dead, and they're on to the core.
There were 2 phases in that fight, and they were not able to get kills during Tormented Souls. They were not able to get kills during Dragon Blade, and that is going to mean core. Deadlykittens come out with a blistering start here, going up against Tempo Storm.
My goodness, Colaris. Tempo Storm and Deadlykittens. It is just, what a series already. I did not expect Deadlykittens to bring this type of fight up against them, and the fact that they were able to so calculated with so many of the decisions that they were able to make from beginning to end of that. It was just really well done. That was an 11-minute Cursed Hollow.
The everlasting sustain there that we saw from Deadlykittens was extremely powerful against the 2 big moments in those fights. If you can't get kills during those very high impact heroics, when are you going to get them, Dread?
I mean, I feel like we just saw the answer is you, in fact, are not going to be able to pick those up. The Malthael, the Lucio situation, we have been talking about it, and now it feels like the only thing that sits on all of our minds here is the Malthael still the go-to? Is this Tempo Storm sticking to what they know, going to hold up, even when they are 1 game away from being sent home?
It could be a repeat situation, unfortunately, for Tempo Storm here. Not really living up to people's hopes in the North American scene, but of course there are still other teams here representing North America. We're going to head over to the analysis desk to see what they think about game number 1.
Deadlykittens are 1 game away now from pulling a Soul Torturers and eliminating Tempo Storm from HGC Finals at BlizzCon. Calder, what'd you think of that game?
I think I have to be careful how I phrase this because...
Trickster, what'd you think of that game?
I mean, I'm frustrated.
Okay.
Honestly, like, I'm watching this Malthael gameplay, and I'm wondering why there's never an engage. There's never a threat. I mean, Claire's nailed it on the head in the commentary there. Whenever you have this composition where you have to overrun your opponents, you have to engage at some point. You have to go for the steamroller tactics, and that never happened. We saw Cattle drop constantly Tormented Souls and float around the side, kind of like peacocking a little bit, like, I'm a bird, look at me. But if you want to be a bird, pick someone that's a bird. Quit picking Malthael. It's very frustrating to see that they're not actually going for the dive engages when they pick a composition that needs to get on their opponent.
Let's just put this into perspective for a moment. We just saw a non-league team defeat an HGC league team,
Caution.
team, with a 4-level lead and 7-0 kills. That is insane.
Yes.
I want to frame it because I felt there was a few really bad macro decisions on the side of Tempo Storm. It was 12 and about like a sliver away from 13. They decided, all right, we know that they're on boss. Maybe we come down and poke around the tribute. That came back to bite them. And then all of a sudden, you have the push in there. The tribute's going to be there. And Deadlykittens actually played that really, really well in the sense that you could hear them screaming, like, don't cap, get boss, get boss, get boss. They got that. And then Tempo came over, instead of soaking, instead of doing anything, playing a more cautious approach. It's an early enough boss to where, despite the fact that you have a curse against you, it's somewhat salvageable. But the minute you start making the aggressive poke calls because you have the mobility and things like that, and then it turned really hard, going into a choke point, ETC making the plays, it just seems like they were way too confident in what they were doing instead of recognizing the situation, recognizing the enemy team comp, and it just seems like they became like so laser focused. They just had tunnel vision of like, we're fine because of maybe the top tribute. They poked it for like 2 minutes. It was really difficult to watch them on those last few minutes of that game.
Yeah, 3 games in a row, Tempo Storm has fallen behind in the early game. They tried better to at least keep up in the macro game with their globals, but unfortunately for them, it just did not work out again. They lost a very fast game. Let's see where this potential final game for Tempo Storm is going to take place. They have opted for Battleground choice, having lost the last game. That is, I think, something that we're going to see a lot of in a best-of-3 situation, Caldor.
Yeah, like, again, for me personally, the last game had 2 aspects to it. It was, first of all, that Tempo Storm just simply didn't perform to the level that you would expect from one of the major regions. But it was also that Deadlykittens playing extremely well.
Yeah.
So those 2 factors were just combined, and that resulted in the game that we saw. Now, Tempo chose the map, and that is a lot more... I mean, this is a lot more common, I feel, in North America than we have in a lot of other regions. We are usually first pick is prioritized. But they are saying, hey, we are confident we need to win now. I mean, this is everything on the line at this point, so you need to win the map. You're taking one of your best, you're taking the map where you're saying, hey, we're going to get a win here for sure. But it's also a map where we need to have a lot of coordination. And to be honest, a better coordinated game on the last map was the Deadlykittens.
Well, it is somewhat seen as a battleground choice in North America, but I think also it's a product of best of threes too. Because they've already lost one, there's so many battlegrounds that are still left up. They want to make sure that they get one where they feel comfortable. We're ready for the draft, guys.
Well, this battleground always comes down to that top lane, so we'll see how that 1v1 will occur. We do get some delayed games here as well, so Tempo Storm trying to prey on the idea of, okay, let's get to that mid to late game where we feel like we are a little bit on the stronger side. But Deadlykittens, in the past, it's been one of the battlegrounds they've always gone to. Well, this is a different squad, obviously, but they still have Innover, and Innover has been great in the top lane.
They love having him, and they love playing around Tahaka. They love a lot of things that they can do on the map. We've seen, high priority on Sonya now, especially, which actually looked really good last game. So I think there's a couple of things that still fit to their core values, as you said, and the way that they like to play that. And we actually saw them pick Dragonshire against MVP Black. Obviously a different opponent. They struggled there, but this is their battleground. They are okay with you picking this against them.
I mean, we talked earlier a bit about how they said, hey, in our qualifiers, our drafts weren't really on point. And JL, we talked a bit about how they said, hey, we are improving this now. And I feel the last game showed it. We already said after the draft that the tools look really, really good. And it was just a question how well will they do using those? And this is going to come down to the same question. With Rhaegar as support, you already are very flexible in the sense that he has wave clear if you need it for them. But you're laughing
but
at
there was almost like a running joke in SEA when we were there. You were talking about the drafts and things that they were doing. It got to a point. Obviously, Rhaegar was really strong about a month and a half ago, right? But they were first picking Rhaegar. It became a first ban thing during their last regional. And so, like, I'm sitting here thinking back, like, there was almost a joke amongst the team. It's like, this is the only hero he can play because he was so good at the time, but that was their most successful hero that they literally first pick. It's hard to argue that, but this is what Jinwoo does.
I mean, you can't argue the strengths of what Rhaegar brings, right? Like, even with the slight changes that we saw on the last patch, the way the meta's changed a little bit, how susceptible he is to actual dive. He's still a strong hero, but one that we continue to keep going back towards with Tempo Storm. It's a Malthael on the ETC.
Yeah, and with Malthael taken, I wouldn't be surprised to see once again Ana taken away from them, since Nana boosted Malthael can be quite the pain to deal with. But now, of course, it's more about the double picks that they have on their own hand. They already committed to, I mean, they can again commit to globals here. That's one of the things to definitely keep in mind. We've been talking about top lane on Dragonshire quite a bit, but just quick rotations in general on this map can be absolutely fantastic if you have the opportunity to rotate quickly, get the kills, have the Haga, Brightwing to an extent. We've seen Fawcett every now and then make an appearance in drafts, even though it's not really the first choice anymore.
I just feel that at this point, you can most likely expect NSJ on Gray minutes, just a matter of when do we draft it. But Sonya, I think, is one of the more particulars. Now, the fear of Lucio being banned out again as a Malthael counter, they opt for the early double support. This definitely fits their style, confidence going over on Lucio again. But the Muradin pickup here for Deadlykittens.
I like that actually a lot because this is exactly what we talked about earlier when they played against MVP Black, that it didn't really seem that they respected him enough. And now the quick adaptation here, picking Muradin and really acknowledging, okay, the recent changes have made him an exceptionally powerful tool. It's of course also another tool they can use against ETC, against Malthael. So I really like the adjustment here.
Yeah, so nice that Heavy Impact comes in at 7 now instead of 16 as another way of being able to stop Moshpit even if Stormbolt's down.
Beforehand, Muradin was great on this battleground in BOE because he has the ability to kind of jump onto an opponent and lock them down. And it gets compounded, as you mentioned, by the level 7 now available here. So Muradin being picked up by the Deadlykittens. Sonya will be banned out. I was expecting the Sonya as well. With
really
Muradin,
like
Lucio, that's a ban you have to go in.
But I really like it in the sense that there's very few other melees that can stay in a lane with Malthael successfully, and I think Sonya is one of those ones. Dahaka loses. Illidan can kind of stay in there, but Illidan has fallen way off the map lately. I think we might see some surprise throughout the tournament, but as it stands, I think Sonya, as you said, in the team fighting and in the solo, definitely a really good ban for Tempo.
Does still leave Dahaka.
Yeah, the ban also on the side of Deadlykittens. I mean, we talked about it already a bit earlier, and it makes a whole lot of sense here with what we're seeing for Tempo. Tempo themselves with the double support here, so well, Furion oftentimes is more so the choice on two of the Spider Queen when we're looking at other regions for the added utility as well. But here in this setup, you have, of course, Roots after a power slide. So there's a lot of control on their side. And, of course, you have also Silence.
What? Like, why?
Wave clear.
Yes, definitely. I get each of the supports, but both supports are already over here for Deadlykittens. Do they not want to deny a range? Are they hiding something?
again, I don't know if they feel comfortable going with the Greymane at this point. Greymane seems like a likely option for Deadlykittens, but it seems a little bit less likely against the Uther, the Malfurion. You've got the stun, you've got the lockdown, so maybe they're looking to control that. They're not as afraid of the Muradin.
I mean, it has to be reactionary. At this point, you have so much control that the question is to simply, I would expect burst. That's the first thing that you think about if you have ETC for the power slide. You have Uther for follow-up stun, you have Malfurion in the same boat. So I'm not quite sure what you would hide there. So it feels more so that they're afraid of what the Kittens could potentially take for...
It's just Greymane is so strong for Deadlykittens. And he's good with Malthael. Oh, there you go, Leoric.
Yeah,
Not the Dahak.
we can talk a little bit about the Lord and Savior, Ominous Wrath.
Go ahead and talk about it. I know you want to. You're smiling.
Tell us more about the wrath.
You got a prescript that you've written every night before you go to bed. You read it, and you're like, good night. You kiss it, put Leo down on the ground.
No, but my boy is in the game, so I'm happy already. I don't need to talk about it.
Well, the 5th pick here, gonna definitely be some damage. Options floating around. There's still the Vala. Could move into it.
Somebody's got to execute off of Malthael.
I really wanted that Greymane, though,
Me
for
too.
Tempo Storm.
Which is surprising. Maybe they, I'm trying to think of why they would hide that. Maybe they want to counter it. But again, as you said, the support's already picked up. Maybe pick up a support plus that damage, but whoever...
The hesitance here just confuses me.
Yeah, if you are doing that, as Gilly said, you should know what you want to go into.
Oh, what?
What in the
Whoa.
hell is going on?
Okay, so...
I guess they want to go out with a bang?
That's
Sorry, what's that mean? Sorry.
Yeah,
I was-
that's how you feel about the comp?
Well, isn't that normally my line?
Sorry, I was trying to talk
If
because
you
it was
take
silence.
this
and
away
that's
from
what
me,
came out.
what do I bring to this
Sorry,
combo?
we'll rewind. You can go ahead and say it.
Okay. I think they want to go out with a bang here.
Yeah, it's possible. You know, it's definitely a thing.
Do you think they want to go out with a bang?
Could be.
J-Hal, what do you think?
I think they want to go out with a bang. I am... They said that we could expect some weird stuff, potentially. They've basically been playing a 2-month-old meta with a new hero or two, reworked hero or two. That's been it. It's been it for 3 games so far. And now we get what everybody probably watching, everybody at this desk assumed there would have to be some type of range damage in this scenario, right? And we get a last pick Kerrigan.
I'm okay with it if they actually go for the aggression. Like, you have to get in your opponent's face. You can't dance around. Lucio constantly will be in a spot where he is boosting around Sonya. Sonya's going to be doing as much damage as he can to that Kerrigan. You're going to have ETC who can definitely negate that fight. ETC Kerrigan can dive together. Power slide into a combo is strong.
Circles of death.
Circles of death.
That's what they're going for.
Post 10.
I mean, they have a lot of control, a lot
They
of
have
stuns that they
combos.
can use here. One of the things that I'm a bit afraid of is that Leoric is going to really shine against this in the sense that he's going to hit a lot with the skeleton swing. Consume Vitality is proccing really well here. March of the Black King is going to be fantastic if used correctly in team fights. So as you said, Tempo Storm needs to show early game aggression, quick rotations, and get kills in, because that's where Kerrigan excels. If they lose out on that window, on that opportunity, then I feel they're going to have a lot of trouble bringing this game home, especially since once you fall behind with Kerrigan, you're basically done.
Out with the banger, in with the new meta. Kalaris and Dreadnought, what do you think?
It's a bold play, Cotton, as we'll find out in just a few moments' time here. What a way to end that draft, Tread.
What a way to end. It's still, I'm still a little bit, struck here that they were willing to commit to that Kerrigan. Later on, you and I were coming up with like wild theories, like is it a Kel'Thas, Kel'Thuzad? And then nope, Chuck Testa just slide in the old Kerrigan.
All right, let's get into it. Game number 2 to find out who is going to be moving on here. And will Tempo Storm keep themselves alive in this series with a Kerrigan of all things in the final choice? One thing's for sure is going into it, if they find that potential to always be rotating faster than their opponents, Kerrigan can control the bottom and mid quite well.
I completely agree with you, but first we got to introduce our teams. In the blue, up a game is Deadlykittens, where we have NSJ on his Greymane. We have Stronger up on the Muradin. Also, we had Enavir on Leoric, Jinwoo on Rhaegar, and Stronger on that Muradin.
And over to the right-hand side, of course, in Tempo Storm land, June will be playing Uther. Next up is going to be Fury on ETC. Next, we have Cthulhu on Malfurion, bringing out that second support. Sam will be rocking the Kerrigan and Caterpillar. As always, the trusty Malthael.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of follow-up immediately to the Kerrigan combo I was talking about. We see one landing there, immediate root follow-up. Hammer Adjust is going to be thrown down there, but Stronger is looking just fine. But you talked about the aggression you wanted to see out of Tempo Storm. I do want to say that traditionally, against maybe an opponent that you consider a little bit weaker, granted Tempo shouldn't have that mentality at this point in time, offensive compositions always pay off.
And these double supports at the moment really keeping the Oracle alive, but Navia cannot be killed off there as Kettle's trying to rip apart some souls and continuing on, trying to put some pressure towards Muradin. Not likely to kill him, though. The one thing that I wanted to ask you, Dread, though, is that with the Malfurion as early as it was, does that, I mean, with the wave clearers, Leoric actually died off up towards that top lane, so very nicely done. But the Malfurion, to me, now makes more sense. I mean, I don't mind the wave clear factor, but with a Kerrigan, very impressive.
Yeah, exactly. Picking that up once you see the Rhaegar gone, if you're going to go into a double support on a map that requires as much wave clear as this, we saw the Malfurion, it goes, oh, Moonburn, being able to help out, but then suddenly having that ranged follow-up, so successful there. Obviously, Uther, he's pretty good at it, especially post-Benediction, but he often has to risk his life or his positioning, as it feels like Cattle's doing a little bit of that here up on the top lane.
All right, Enavir trying to put on some pressure against Cattle. And likewise, he can't really move forward knowing that Enavir is a little bit low because he knows that there's potential of that rotation. And Stronger with what seems like the smallest little dwarf toss.
It's the dwarfiest of dwarf toss right there.
That's right. Don't tell anyone about that one. But Sam and June now looking on the rotation, looking to threaten at the front once again.
I'm surprised to see that kind of, transition in rotations here from the members of Tempo Storm. Yes, they do have an offensive composition, but I'd like to see them at least try and not hide into this Bermuda Triangle of Death. Hold on a minute here. They might be able to sniff out Stronger. Also, another thing to keep in mind with that gank we saw them transitioning onto Stronger before, they are very quick to use all of their CC stacked on top of one another. I would like to see Uther try and wait for the Dwarf Toss animation before end up using the Hammer just to try and interrupt that there, rather than just kind of throwing CC after CC and hoping to get the kill, because his health pool is so very high.
Potential lockdown would be great. One thing to note is that on this map, something like On a Pale Horse at level 1 for Malthael, if he sees opportunities where he's dominating the top lane, he can then potentially, find areas elsewhere to try and come down, help out friends, etc., which could be nice, but I don't know if he's going to get that kind of room. So the one thing it is great for is getting back to lane.
Yeah, one thing I also want to highlight when it came to those talent adjustments here for Psalm specifically, to be able to deal with the wave clear and the focus there, by going with that Fury of the Storm, able to get that splash and make sure Kerrigan not necessarily a go-to character when it comes to that wave clear, and just a beautiful combo there up on bottom. Very good use of the synergy there, but ultimately she makes up for all of her weaknesses with that talent, or at least puts a nice band-aid over top.
And that was a guaranteed kill even if it didn't last that long, because there was the roots under it as well.
Yep, it's just any time that you're able to rake them in, always Malfurion's there for that beautiful follow-up, and then you can use your stun whenever appropriate.
So strong control so far of Dragonshire, much stronger I feel than the previous map.
Very much so. I feel like Tempo Storm is coming out guns blazing here, netting themselves already 2 kills, but, ooh, Cattle. Barely able to make it out of there. In Tempo Storm, now they're pressuring up on bottom. They're succeeding up to the surviving the ganks up on top. And now a Dragonite on mid, it just feels like a very different game for them so far. But we have to keep in mind, Kerrigan compositions typically do this in the early game. It's what they can make happen in the late.
Yeah, there is the potential for that fall off. Another pick off on towards Rhaegar. Very nicely done. Not even with a Kerrigan combo at all. Sam, at the moment, in the Dragonite, putting on pressure against the structures. Just kicking away one member of Deadlykittens at the moment. Stronger in confidence. Bouncing about here, trying to slow this impending death down of this fort. It will fall.
Ultimately, we got to be asking, what is Tempo Storm going to be doing outside of the Dragonite? Because that oftentimes is some of the most important things on Dragonshire. Yeah. How many of these mercenary camps are they going to be able to pick up and cycle, pressure out the map, painted red, and be able to essentially manipulate the secondary Dragonite rotation that we know is going to be coming online?
All right, so just backing off for now. Getting themselves a level lead so far. This is a good start for Tempo Storm's campaign to try and get themselves back on track, keep themselves alive in this group. And one thing about Malfurion is that with the Moonfire build, you don't have something like Loon's Grace where you can just actually have the reach if you want to go full Moonfire, but it's still really annoying. Those numbers still start stacking up later down the line, and it's quite a nuisance. Yeah,
Malfurion is, in my opinion, one of the more underestimated supports when it comes to their actual damage output. He really can become a major problem. the only trade-off, as you said, it's that of Loon's Grace,
The
risking
range.
your positioning constantly to be able to get that damage output, but it's made very convenient when the double support meta. It makes sense we see Malfurions trying to make up for what their compositions often fail. And I've highlighted it multiple times. This is oftentimes why Rhaegar, one of the many reasons, Rhaegar is at the forefront of the support meta.
This is one of the maps that you felt that Deadlykittens had most grasp on last
Absolutely.
tournament, wasn't it?
It is without a doubt their best map, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Their rotations are very, very fluid. As we look towards the later stages of the game, I bet we can oftentimes see them really split pressuring on one aspect of the map with a camp, and then it's very likely that they will be able to force a fight out somewhere else, much like we saw them do on Curse, but here they constantly seem to be able to rely on that strategy.
So the reason I bring that up is because as much as they haven't done that well towards bottom and mid, Lucio has been constantly reinforcing towards top, making Cattle's job a pain in the bum. Like, actually just having a really hard time against a Leoric of all things.
And I feel like that is because the 4-man of Tempo Storm does have enough wave clear because of the adjustment with the Malfurion that we're talking about, that and the 1 versus 1 is so successful for the Maltail that essentially somebody has to make up for that, because you are not going to be able to deal with this lethal 4-man Tempo Storm has composed here. But with their heroics, they are managing to get a lot of pressure onto this bottom keep.
Big pressure with the Knights at the moment. They'll get cleaned up, and then Tempo Storm doesn't feel comfortable sticking around there, even though there's no 10 just yet for Deadlykittens, and we haven't seen the unleashing of Maelstrom and the Tormented Souls. I can't wait for that one. That one's going to be exciting. As they said, circles upon circles.
Circles upon circles. It is going to be just absolutely terrifying with seeing those in synergy. I've never really seen them in the same composition, which is showing kind of the rarity of what Tempo Storm has built here. But Power Slide, Kerrigan combo, brilliant cleanse.
Very, very well done there. Stronger gets out. Not even the Roots will be able to lock that down. Cattle at the moment on the flank, looking to put pressure on towards Leoric, making him stray away from the fight. Stronger lives to fight another day.
Veer dropping the Wraith Walk, looking to retrieve. Fury gets a Power Slide. Kerrigan combo not going to be used. Ancestral does end up dropping, but we saw Rhaegar transition down towards bottom. He stops the Drag Knight from being able to be taken.
Actually cancelling out that the silence there on the Malfurion. No, the Malfurion actually did get the silence off there with the 90 seconds, but overall, so getting themselves 1 kill. Leoric falls, but it's just going to be all they get for now.
Just the Leoric there, but I just want to highlight that rotation out of Deadlykittens to sacrifice their Leoric in order to make sure the Dragon Knight didn't get up. I don't think maybe at this point in time that is necessarily a necessary trait for them, because the Dragon Knight doesn't scale that effectively, but later on, it's those kind of cheeky plays that show the expertise and mastery that they have over a map like Dragonshire.
Right, so Envier looking to try and reinforce Stronger up towards the top. He should be able to get away if he's got a Dwarf Toss, but
nice
that Root is going to be able to shut him down. Oh, and the pull back there as he tries to get over the wall. Jinwoo running with his tail between his legs. Poor doggy.
Deadlykittens able to pick up the Night Camp in the meantime. It looks like Leoric's going to try and go bottom to be able to deal with the Giants, but now that Tempo Storm has secured themselves a full level lead with this aggressive composition, that it's likely they'll be able to follow up with the Dragon Knight here. This is looking very, very good. Now I want to be seeing what does Tempo Storm end up doing here with this Dragon Knight, because we often know Dragonshire is one of the few maps that seems to struggle in identifying win conditions, and they are just beelining it here to the key.
I was going to say, going straight to bot lane, we all know how important and impactful that lane is on this map. Tempo Storm wants none of the late game. None of it. Let's try and round this out as fast as possible.
And Veer actually using that Wraith Walk offensively here, looking to try and force the fight. No kick yet used for Solom as he's going to move in here, focusing more onto the keep, falling pretty low here.
Power on towards him. NSJ gets kicked away. No damage done just yet to the lineup, as Enavir here taking a bit of damage. Stronger looking for a flank position on towards the back line.
Arch of the Black King being dropped down now puts him in a terrible position. Enavir able to get the Wraith Walk out, but it costs him a keep.
Tough stuff. Tempo Storm is happy with that. They're going to retreat out. There will be no fighting here. And that's calm and patient play from Tempo Storm, seizing their advantages. They may lose top 4, depending on how healthy that Night Camp is, though.
Oh, combo, another cleanse. Once again, we are seeing Jinwoo there to save the day. But that camp you were talking about up on top, this is one of those things that I was trying to highlight. They are so very good at understanding how to pressure one angle of the map while a major objective is going to be there on Dragonshire. And I would argue it's going to be the major reason they're able to come back if they do so in this game, but with confidence, getting CC'd after CC'd. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
Sam getting to play a Kerrigan. Not a common sight, but certainly making use of it to the fullest extent here. in game number 2, and I would love a game number 3. Mainly because it's the only cast I get today. But
Okay, you know, I'll tell you this much. I would love a game number 3 because I would like to see North America not fall out at this point in time. And that would be a strong correlation there. So, yeah, I would like that.
Yeah. So we're on the same page. Cleaning Malfurion alone, cleaning up the camp, and that's the power of the Moonfire build, actually, coming into play. You want a Malfurion to do that without Moonfire build? All right, I'll see you in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be a bad time. Talking about a bad time, maybe one here up into the middle lane. Psalm going to land a combo, forces the cleanse, going to be dropped. March of the Black King giving him a bit of HP. Ancestral connects.
And with all of those circles, not only the Maelstrom, but also the
combo!
And that is a huge amount of damage. The Mosh Pit before was zoning them out so well, breaking up the confidence there from Confidence. And all of the combos coming out with those roots going down, big kills coming out. Tempo Storm almost gets a team wipe.
Tempo just turned it up. So many combos being used there. And the raw root from June to be able to enable that second rotation was absolutely clutch. Setting Tempo now 2 full levels here over Deadlykittens, 10-0 when it comes to the kill count.
It's an amazing thing to say that the Mosh Pit didn't get many members, but the fact that they were all spread on either side of it and not really able to reinforce one another was really nice play there. So as much as Fury's had some questionable plays this tournament so far, that one was solid.
Very much so. He is able to, you know, show up when it matters, and sometimes that's the only player that you're going to need on your squad at these high tense moments, big tournaments here. But Tempo with their Dragonite and this huge advantage, what can they make happen here? I'm expecting right onto the keep and then forcing a fight, diving past the keep here with that 16 talent here.
Here goes more pressure. Cattle now looking for... It's difficult to get a second keep off the back of this against the 5v5 with the wall still up and running, but they're going to look for it if they can find it, as Cattle will push on now, trying to kick away confidence. Learned his lesson from kicking away the Leoric prior, and then just a Wraithwalk coming out. But stronger on the back line. Jeez Louise, calm down.
Trying to split the members of Tempo Storm, distract them from obtaining this keep, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Combo got to drop on top of him, forcing the cleanse. Kick actually used onto the Lucio, now on the backside.
Yeah, and actually he dropped Sound Barrier as well while that was going on, so he only shielded himself during all of that. So that was actually a great kick away. Stronger trying to dwarf toss.
But the combo is going to connect.
No cleanse as well. Here goes the Ancestral Heal trying to come out, but the damage reduction from the heal. Tormented Souls is actually ripping them apart on this with Maelstrom as well. Get circled, friends, because that's DK. Going to have to be in full retreat. They didn't get more kills, but at least they got the mirrored him.
Tempo Storm now is going to just look at this keep and drop it. Confidence going in combo range, but Psalm not enough man to descend the full rotation. They're going to back out, pick up the Night Camp to boot. Everything is looking primed and ready for Tempo Storm to send us to game number 3.
What are you supposed to do versus Tormented Souls and Maelstrom at that point? If you're both healthy, if you don't have Sound Barrier, you have to run. I mean, surely.
Yeah, that is why maybe Tempo Storm has put so much emphasis onto the Malthael, because in proper situations where you get the full effectiveness, it is very difficult to be able to deal with him as long as that one major cooldown is used, like it was into the last fight. I mean, I don't honestly have an answer. I wish I had a better one than that. It's just no run, and that is why we are drafting the way we are.
Tempo Storm looking to set up a potential play. Will DK fall for it? Stronger and Confidence don't want to move too far.
It's a bit scary here. No one looking to move out too far. 25 seconds for the secondary Dragonite, and it doesn't look like we are going to have the battle here throughout mid. 3 members of Deadlykittens going to put emphasis onto the bottom lane as we see Stronger looking to zone out in the Bermuda Triangle, meaning Tempo Storm is going to have a significant advantage with this rotations because of that bottom keep being down, and the Dragonite, which one of the shrines these teams are comfortable picking up first. The fact that Tempo is picking up the one closest to a fort makes all rotations very free for them from this point on.
But I like those cautionary moments from Tempo Storm, especially in that situation. They've seized control of this game the entire time. They've got themselves 2 keeps. Why not Party Bush in that spot?
I mean, why not Party Bush all the time? Talking about a party, we've got ourselves one.
Yeah, definitely have. There's going to be roots there on towards front. There's the silence on towards Muradin, trying to keep him alive. And all the while, here comes Tormented Souls as well as Maelstrom. The shield's gone onto Sam. That's a big combo on 2 players. But the support here coming out from Deadlykittens is enough to keep them alive.
That dwarf toss in. Oh, gets the stun combo, being able to pull them back here. Are they going to be able to survive this fight? Ancestral dropped over the wall. Why? Deadlykittens just diving.
They can't keep going with that fight. Deadlykittens here is going to have to, well, they push Tempo Storm away during all of that. That was crazy stuff. The sustain was insane from Deadlykittens.
It showed when we see the sound barrier into the Tormented Souls properly being dropped and being used effectively here. Tempo Storm's composition does have a hard time in these fights. It's just the cooldowns and whether or not we see Confidence able to group up with the team and make sure everyone is getting those effective shields, not letting that passive just tear them apart.
So we're in a similar situation to the last game, where if people aren't dying during Tormented Souls and Maelstrom, Deadlykittens has slowly felt out this game more and more and more as time has gone on, and they were in a much better situation in that team fight, because they know if they can nullify that, if they can get away through all of that, they have an extremely good fighting chance in these team fights.
And as the game moves on, I would like to look towards the 20 Talontiers. Normally I would look at the Leoric and immediately go, yes, this is going to be a huge problem, but he's also gone to March of the Black King, where there's only typically the Spectral Leech to move into the high threat, and I don't see any major argument for that here. Other than that, it's just going to be the wave clear made up for Greymane, honestly, with the auto attacks being able to deal with this pressure that Tempo has secured after getting those 2 keeps in all of those catapults.
One shrine apiece, thankfully for Deadlykittens. Both of their keeps down are in the same lane. It's very hard to push over the Death Bridge. So they can constantly keep bouncing back and forth and cleaning that up. So very nicely done by them.
We see Psalm able to get pressure up on top here. That will secure both of the shrines here, and it's going to be a free Dragonite, but a lot of pressure there, as you said. This feels not enough to be game, but very, very close. Good transition downward. Tempo Storm, I'm surprised that they didn't actually move anybody down faster than that. That was a very slow transition. I just autopilot assumed that they were going to do it.
Yeah. And Deadlykittens now has to be dancing themselves for quite a while. They need 20.
One thing I do want to highlight here is that I want to see Deadlykittens try and not take fights in these type of chokeholds that enable that Tormented Soul. Psalm's going to move forward, trying to target down Jinwoo. He's going to kite right on out. Inavir still has the Wraith Walk. Same was stronger in that door toss.
Sam went in deep. He knows he has the ability to do so. Here comes the Maelstrom as well as Tormented Souls, blowing up one member instantly. Rega ends up falling with a big silence coming out from Malfurion as well. This is the dream situation here with the Torpus. Fury gets himself the lock on Greymane, and that is going to be more power coming out here from Tempo Storm, looking to round out the game.
Another combo, another follow-up. Tempo Storm is just lighting up the Deadlykittens, now 14-0. Lucio doing his best to make the transition up towards top. Stronger will be able to deny this Dragonite, but it is just for how long? And the answer feels like not very much so. Even Tempo Storm giving up and saying, well, fine then. If you're going to worry about Dragonite, we're going to send ourselves right on to the core.
Big fan of the Torbus play. Just pop it without even people in it and just go forward. Really catches your opponents off guard.
Absolutely, and that looks like it's going to be enough here. Tempo Storm still has 8 seconds before Rhaegar's able to join, and they rid of the shields.
Beautiful stuff here. Confidence and Stronger aren't going to be enough to stop the onslaught that we're seeing from this. Sam, bringing out the Kerrigan in a high-octane moment, is able to keep Tempo Storm alive and push it on to a game number 3.
Very well done here for Tempo Storm. Able to hold their own after what felt like a almost forfeited game here. After looking at the draft, everyone going, what is this? Where is Tempo Storm going? We knew that they were going to bring out some wild cards, but no one thought it would be that wild. And it's nice to see that it was well practiced, well thought out, and they were able to bring their own here again against Deadlykittens.
Bear in mind, not a single kill over towards Deadlykittens in that game. A little bit flustered maybe. The sweat now starts to pour here for both of these teams. One more game determines who moves on. We're going to head over to the analysis desk to see what they think of game number 2.
Well, friends, it seems now that although it's not quite dinner time, we all are going to eat our words because Tempo Storm, with the Circles of Death strategy, were able to take game 2.
That's more like it. I'm way more happy with how they presented themselves in this game now than the first one. So that's much more what I wanted to see. And I'm actually happy that with Kerrigan, they were able to execute this much pressure and so much aggression. That was pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, the early game worked well for them.
Yeah, it makes me question.
I said they were going to win, by the way.
Yeah, he did say that. It makes me question. He said that they were going to win, so he just wanted to make sure he gets that in there.
I didn't.
Gotta make sure.
It makes me question why we don't see more aggression from them. Solom seems like he won a spot where he was very happy with how he could be aggressive. June constantly was back there to back him up. Kerrigan would bait a couple of fights that would make it look like she may have been on the losing end of a trade, turn around, get a great combo. There were 2 to 3 man combos there that should not have been landing, and Solom made it work with the help of his supports. I want to see more Tempo Storm like this, more aggressive plays, more getting in your face, because they can definitely pull it off, it looks like.
How many times have we said, and I mean a lot, over the past year of Tempo Storms they're not aggressive most of the time.
Just get in
they're
their
so
face.
passive. What if you just draft heroes? It's like, look, you don't have a choice. Like you're eating your vegetables, right? Like, or else. And they just go in, and it was the aggression once the bladed momentum picked up at level 7. Like it was the sustained fights that seemed okay with a Lucio Rhaegar in there. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, there's another combo. And there's another combo coming out from Kerrigan. And they just could not survive through that. And Solom, I thought, did a really good job just forcing out all the rotation. Whether he landed it or not, they were very, very impactful.
Yeah, the fights locations were working out really well for Tempo Storm, and that gives them game 2. We're headed to a break. After this break, we'll have game 3 and the conclusion of the series.
The 2017 Heroes Global Championship Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Intel, T-Mobile, and NVIDIA. Since he was a child, Lucio has always believed in using music to bring people together. When the Vishkar Corporation moved in and began to exploit his community, Lucio repurposed the company's sonic technology and used it to lead an uprising. He became an overnight celebrity and started touring the world in sold-out shows to promote positive social change. Now, Lucio fights for justice as he drops the beat around the world and throughout the Nexus. Lucio is a highly mobile support hero who constantly heals or increases the movement speed of all nearby allies. Lucio is able to attack enemies while moving, and his weapon never needs to be reloaded. His trait, Wall Ride, automatically increases his movement speed and allows him to pass through units as long as he's moving next to a wall or structure. Lucio's first ability, Sound Wave, fires a sonic blast that damages and knocks back all enemies in its arc. Crossfade toggles between the 2 songs that Lucio is constantly playing to support himself and nearby allies. Use his Speed Boost song to increase movement speed, or his Healing Boost song to heal. When Lucio uses Amp It Up, the effect of the song he's currently playing is increased for a short period. Healing Boost heals for dramatically more per second, and Speed Boost grants allies even more movement speed. Lucio's first heroic ability, Sound Barrier, works just as it does in Overwatch, providing all nearby teammates with a powerful shield that decays over a short window of time. Reverse Amp is a more offense-oriented heroic. When cast, it applies a negative effect to all nearby enemies. This effect is the opposite of what Lucio's current song does for his allies. If he's playing Speed Boost, all nearby enemies are slowed. If he's playing Healing Boost, all nearby enemies take damage over time. This is in addition to the positive effect each song provides for his own team. When Lucio's in the mix, there's never a moment when he isn't playing one of his songs. The key is to know which song to play and when to play it. Use Crossfade to switch between them as the situation demands, keeping your teammates healed when under pressure, or helping them move around the battlefield. Crossfade has no cooldown, so you can toggle between Lucio's 2 songs as often as you require.
Be sure to amp it up when your support is needed the most. If you're facing an enemy, Lucio, focus fire and burst him down. Lucio's wall ride trait, along with his speed boost song and amp it up, give him amazing mobility. Use the environment to run circles around your enemies and push them toward your allies with Soundwave. When escaping a battle, Soundwave can also be used to create space between Lucio and his pursuer. Sound Barrier is a great defensive burst tool that can absorb high amounts of damage for your team. There's a brief delay between when you cast it and when the shields take effect, and the shields themselves only last for a short window of time, so be sure to drop the beat at precisely the right moment. If you choose the reverse amp heroic, keep in mind that its effects are separate from Lucio's normal songs. When you activate reverse amp, Lucio's current song will continue to benefit his allies. Keep in mind that reverse amp doesn't benefit from amp it up in any way. Be sure to continue using amp it up to help your team instead of trying to use it to hinder your enemies. Lucio is an electronic musician extraordinaire whose sick beats both empower his team and help drive them to victory.
Welcome back to the HGC Finals. I'm here, Gillyweed, filling in for Caleris at the desk host position, here with Caldor, Trixler, and Jayhow. I promise I didn't forget who you are. Maybe I did. Who knows?
It's a beard.
She's crushing me today. First she bosses me around.
The crap you were giving me during the break, man. Maybe I did just forget.
Now she's
He was also giving it to Trixler right before we came back.
I'm just used to it. Gilly,
He's
I'm
an
sorry
equal
you had to deal with
opportunity
that.
crap giver, apparently.
Eventually you get a wall, you know, you just
I
give
was
up.
nicest today I've ever been to him.
That's what happens with Chromie Facts.
We were
No more
Fire-
coffee for you.
Look, we
Okay,
got the
sounds
game
good.
going on, but we were
Wait.
5 seconds before we were going live,
Yeah.
and he's giving Trixler grief.
That's just what he does. Guys, we are in the middle of our first elimination match of 2 today for Group A. Deadlykittens came in, won the first game, but then we saw Tempo Storm be able to tie it back up with a Kerrigan Malthael of all things. What does that mean for Game 3?
Draft more circles.
Exactly, draft more circles. The one thing I wanted to add before we headed into the break was, by the way, that with the combo with Kerrigan and Malthael, is what really cool to see that a lot of the pressure that Malthael experienced in the first game was actually away from him. The attention was more so on Kerrigan, which allowed Malthael to do so much in those team fights. Since even with the double support, they had a lot of trouble out healing the damage, since every single time Touch of Death was simply activated, and Malthael had so much room to work with, since everybody's eyes were on Kerrigan and her stuns.
Yeah, it seemed way different than the Tormented Souls of the Dragon Blade that we saw in the first game. They were able to get through Sound Barrier and the heals that Deadlykittens had. Let's see where Game 3, the third and final game of this Best of 3, is going to take place. Deadlykittens have the option of Battleground choice or first pick. They opt into the Battleground, and they're taking us to Tomb of the Spider Queen.
The return of Ragnaros, potentially, in this game. Now
He's
that we've
great on the
got
map.
Trixler on the desk.
I mean, even without Lava Wave, I actually think it's a battleground that he's very strong on. He's very safe in the bottom lane. He can do pretty decent in some matchups. He's not going to win you a lane, right? But he can hold it for a long amount of time, which buying time on that battleground is very effective and very useful.
So we go into Tomb of the Spider Queen. Any other besides Ragnaros? I mean, I guess we knew that that had to be brought up. I'm sure we'll hear about Chromie at some point in this draft too. Any other picks that you guys are keeping your eyes on now? Is this potential that maybe we'll have a second character, or does that seem like that was a one-time strat only, Jay Howe?
This was a...
This was
I
the
have-
Kerrigan.
I was going to say, I have shades of Glaurung on Kerrigan last year at PAX West, qualifying them for BlizzCon. That was one of the most epic NA moments that we've had in the past year. Now we've got Psalm busting it out. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, in my opinion.
Infernal Shrines, this battleground, Kerrigan can excel. I mean, the lanes are very small. I mean, Arthas Kerrigan used to be the pickup that you went to back in the day on this battleground.
And Medivh as well, good another hero that we have seen here. We have seen it already before. This is a great hero for the quick rotations.
The draft
Bye,
has
Lucio.
started, and Lucio is gone.
I would
Game
love
3.
if they just banned Malthael right now. It's like, you take our Lucio away, all right, Malthael's gone.
I think Garrosh has to definitely be considered as a ban here for Deadlykittens. If they've studied, they've seen, the way that NA started to play this. Tempo Storm has picked it in the past. I think Garrosh could be a threat unless they just feel comfortable dealing with that. And generally, we kind of had the conversation off stream earlier. It was a matter of like, all right, what type of heroes do you have to see? And a lot of those, it either revolves around mobility or the potential Medivh. So are you comfortable with that? But this is interesting.
Like this more. If you pick Garrosh now, then you allow Deadlykittens to draft heroes that can punish Garrosh. That would be ETC, for example, that can really exploit his positioning. So I think they are going to have an easier time playing around Garrosh and trying to exploit his weaknesses than dealing with Malthael again, that obviously is prioritized by Tempo Storm to a ridiculous amount. So it's just a pillar of their comps. So getting rid of him makes sense, I feel, in this setup.
Gilly, would Tassadar make sense here for Tempo Storm? I feel like that's something that you would move into with that being open and available, and they have a huge track record with the hero.
Yeah, that is a possibility. Tassadar even is just really big in North America still, and also kind of keeps things open still for them, but it has kind of felt like Tempo Storm is rotating more toward double full supports lately, with having Coffin playing things like Brightwing. We saw him play Malfurion, and I hadn't ever seen him play that before. Even a Lily sometimes they'll pick with him. That may not feel like that would be their #1 pick for this such important slot. So they're going to actually opt into Sonya since Malthael was banned.
I really wonder, we saw one of the rare Kel'Thuzad picks towards the end of the season. It wasn't necessarily the most meaningful game, but they've generally picked a lot of mage-style heroes, whether it's the Chromie, Gul'dan, or Kel'Thuzad towards the end of the season. As you said, now they're going more towards the double support style, and with you going double support style, you generally go into a more sustained style hero. Gul'dan's the only one that kind of fits that realm, but you got to think it's probably more than likely going to be an auto attack style hero that we'll probably see.
I mean, the double pick for the Deadlykittens right now. One of the heroes that I would definitely expect to make an early appearance again, for the reasons that have been pointed out throughout the day, is definitely Muradin, especially also since he can, of course, pressure Sonya a little bit more. Waveclear, of course, is a big question mark still. And there's so many heroes still around that you can pick here. Tassadar was pointed out by you for Tempo Storm. Deadlykittens could also decide to go into one of those hyper carry double support comps, especially since Tassadar not only excels to emphasize another hero, but the one cool thing that you have with him as well is just the vision on the map. And once you control the 2 turn-in points, you can really attempt to snowball.
This is actually a combination that we've seen from a lot of teams in the eastern side of the world. Auriel and Garrosh. Auriel actually stepped Garrosh very well when you're playing offensive, especially when you're pushing in the Web Weavers. The Tainment Strike into a wall sets up the Garrosh for the easy engage into the throw behind. So it's actually a really deadly combo.
There's a lot of opportunities on Tomb of the Spider Queen in general just because of the structures. And it was kind of when we first saw Lucio, it was back at the first Western Clash. And it was Lucio all the time on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Most teams considered it the better battleground because he had so many walls to ride on. It's kind of a similar value that we'll see out of Auriel, is that you have several walls to use for the Detainment Strike.
What picks are you thinking next for Tempo Storm? What would you like to see here, Caldor?
Rhaegar. I would really love to see supports now being targeted, and Rhaegar is also chosen. It makes so much sense for them to get him here simply because it adds the extra wave clear. It's great in the synergy with Sonya, and it's also one of those moments where you have to you're forced to already take a support, since if you don't, you allow the Kittens in the next rotation to pick up a second support for themselves, ban out another one, and really start to choke you out a little bit on the utility supports you want.
Genji and Greymane being hovered here. Genji, a Tempo Storm normal hero that you would see from them pretty often.
Also, by the way, we haven't really mentioned that yet, but Rhaegar, of course, as the support choice makes so much sense since he adds the utility too and has his panic buttons. But they also picked ETC, and ETC is exactly the hero that we pointed out earlier as a great counter to Garrosh, which we now see on the side of Deadlykittens. So if you position badly with Garrosh, ETC then has that opportunity to slide in and push into the team and make sure that there's a kill confirmed.
I think that one of the things that concerns me most about Deadlykittens is the fact that they're so heavy on the Greymane. And Greymane is not a very good Auriel battery. And in the past, we've seen NSJ, and it's been a while, and he told me we're unlikely to see a Lunar. It's something that he's excelled on in the past. That's generally up that alley, but they've been on that double support NSJ carry style that I'm not really confident here about a Greymane. And I'd almost like to see maybe Banavala force them into something else, especially if you plan on going double support, make him play the Lunar, things like that. If you've researched that hero, the only fallback option there beyond that, however, is a Cassia pick that we have not seen yet, and Cassia might be prioritized here.
I actually, call me crazy, don't mind Zul'jin as well. If that Greymane were to fall off there, Zul'jin can actually be kind of decent with the Ariel, but it's good against multiple melees if you can stay away from that leap flash full-on engage. But of course, you'd have to move into another support. I'm just saying there are options outside of what we saw from there before, but I feel like we're going to get that Greymane no matter what. And SJ looks like he's at home on that hero. You compare to other heroes that he picks up, and it feels a little bit off. So we'll have to see what he moves into.
I mean, one of the things that I'm actually still waiting for is a follow-up for Garrosh's combo. We don't really have anything to go for that lockdown then to really confirm a kill or that burst damage and afterwards. So as JR said, we need a battery for Oriel. Greymane doesn't really excel here too much. I would like to see a follow-up on Garrosh combos to really make this composition in general a little bit more scary.
Skuldan out of the realm?
Look, I was going to say, kick it old school. Kick it. I was going to say the Tassadar there. This is the reason I say Tassadar is that Confidence is that secondary support one. He's only been playing a lot of Lucio or Brightwing. Brightwing doesn't really fit here. Ariel's going to be that. I was going to say kick it old school. Maybe go Tass and then bring that Cassia in for that Ariel battery. You can still go Vala. I think either or is going to be up in the air here, but we do have the Ragnaros picked up as well to man that solo lane.
I'm questioning the Oriel at this point. I'm not quite sure if she had to really be such a high priority for them. You have Rhaegar open, so I would have preferred them to go into Rhaegar. It would have made them overall a bit more flexible than Oriel with the setup they're playing right now. There are still batteries around, but I feel it already pushes you in a certain direction where I would have preferred them to keep themselves a bit more flexible to adjust to what Tempo Storm is doing.
I feel like at this point it basically has to be Vala, just because you might want that second interrupt, and as it stands, the only interrupt you have is going to be a Detainment Strike for a potential mosh pit. Vala with the Rain of Vengeance.
I love how you immediately say they're going lava way.
Yeah, that's you're like, oh, you want a mosh pit? Well, here's some fire for you.
I mean,
there it is. There it is.
There is still a Sephora smash, but you're immediately glancing over that and saying like, nope, it's going to be lava way.
No, I said Detainment Strike. There's no Sulfurous Smash. There's no such thing as that. Just ask Trixler.
Yeah, there is no such thing.
I deal with that on a daily basis, believe me.
Psalm is going to log on to his Smurf here, Pharaoh, and pull out the Kel'Thuzad, which is one of the deadliest things that you can see in North American Hero League. Will it work out against the Deadlykittens?
They always have some type of mage style. Their earlier game, they had Medivh, doesn't quite fit the same mold, but they love having a mage style to fit into that. You know, I said Chromie, Gul'dan, or the Kel'Thuzad, which we saw towards the end of the season against Team Freedom. They end up busting out the Kel'Thuzad, whose one-shot, one-kill potential is nasty.
I mean, with Kel'Thuzad, you really want to pressure in. The problem is normally against him, you use dive, since he is quite squishy. That's, by the way, where Muradin would excel, but with the draft that we're seeing for the Kittens right now, it's not quite the hero that you would feel would complement that composition here. So, right now we have the Vala. We needed the battery for Oriel, and as you said before, we need additional interrupts against the potential mosh pit from ETC, so Vala makes perfect sense here. But Kel'Thuzad into that after the ban on Genji was a smart choice.
One of the best counters towards Garrosh, burst damage. I'd say Kel'Thuzad brings a little bit of that to the table.
Yeah, this now has become, can Kel'Thuzad do his thing? Can Psalm do what we saw Tempo Storm do with Kel'Thuzad versus Team Freedom, which was Tempo Storm lost that series, but that game versus Freedom on Tomb was so dominant for Tempo Storm. It was ridiculously dominant. Does Deadlykittens have what they need to slow down the stacking of those Blight stacks?
I don't know about slowing down the stacks. They can slow down the game there with the Ragnaros, but ETC sets up Kel'Thuzad easily here to drop down the Frost Novas, get those Blight stacks going like crazy. I see Psalm having a very strong game here just because of Fury setting him up.
And it's not just that. I mean, the slide's going to be there, and then they ended up going Malfurion again. Slide, root, that's an old combo. But now all of a sudden, you've got yourself that little ring there. It's going to lock you down.
Circle of Storm.
Lots of circles.
What the Kittens have to do is control the objective. They need to snowball it with the objective. Kel'Thuzad excels when you push in with your team, so you can actually use the chains and into the structures and then chain people in, so the push potential is just magnified. If you shut that down by controlling the objective and get the double turn in at the beginning and snowball it to 10, then you can play around that and can really exploit his weaknesses. But that's something that they have to do, in my opinion, if they want to win that game now.
Guys, this is it. One game to determine who moves on to face CE in the final match of tonight. Caleres and Dreadnought, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Kelly, as we get into the final map now. And overall, a Kel'Thuzad coming out against no cleanse on the other side, most importantly.
Yeah, Psalm was absolutely astounding on some of the games we were able to see him on the Kel'Thuzad in the past. You heard Gilly highlighting kind of the aggression they were able to display. And after seeing, the offensive playstyle in game number 2 here, I'm kind of really excited to see that playstyle here for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, same, especially since, as I say, it's all the way down to the wire now. Game number 3 coming in. So without further ado, let's head into Tomb of the Spider Queen to find out who is going to be advancing on to keep themselves alive. Not even just qualify for the quarterfinals. They still have to go through CE, who is a fearsome opponent indeed, as Tempo Storm previously learned. So let's get into it, as I am here with Mr. Good Old Dreadnought.
In the blue, we have Deadlykittens representing Southeast Asia, where we have Confidence on the Tassadar. Enavir is on Rhaegar. We have NSJ on the Vala. Next up is Stronger on the Garrosh, and I missed Jinwoo on Ariel.
And to the right-hand side, Tempo Storm from North America. June will be playing Rhaegar. Next up, Fury on ETC. We have Cthulhu going to be rocking it out on the Malfurion. And next up, Psalm on Kel'Thuzad, a lot on his shoulders. And Caterpillar will be on Sonya. That rounds out their composition, looking to try and advance on to the next round.
Deadlykittens has to find a way to slow down the blight stacks of Psalm to avoid getting chained en route consistently. Because if that does end up working well with the ETC setup, the power slide into the chains here, it could be a very, very short Tomb of the Spider Queen game for Deadlykittens.
And just in general, short distances, which makes blight stacking even easier.
Absolutely. The rotations and transitions we can expect out of Tempo, as we see already 3 blight stacks obtained. Psalm has been really, ever since Kel'Thuzad released, putting a lot of effort into it within the, Hero League, putting in the grind here.
Yeah.
And immediately with his performance within North America, it showed. He was a bar above every other Kel'Thuzad, and I'm really hoping it still continues at the international stage.
Very good crisis management there, actually, by Psalm for a moment. He threw the chains out on one target, realized Garrosh was way too close to him, and completely changed focus, understanding that he had to deal with that. But Fury, under pressure, will go down. That's first blood. ETC falls. It's not been the most clean tournament yet for Fury.
Yeah, very good job, though, for Stronger to kind of feign that weakness, abusing the passive there of Garrosh, and then getting the max range pull right on in. Yeah. That's going to net Deadlykittens. At least, I would say, probably both of the turrets here onto the front wall. Minimum of 1 turret, and more importantly, a smidge of experience ahead of Tempo Storm.
So let's see how Deadlykittens is going to seize the advantage off the back of that. It was the 1 tower, which gives them a little bit of extra experience, pushing them on to that level 4 quicker. So there is the theory that they can try and get themselves a bit more control over those turn-in points with good pressure down on this bottom lane.
But it's also, we have to keep in mind the fact that Deadlykittens keep sieging up. Hold up here, brilliant flank, nice follow-up there. Kattle's going to interrupt the drag, actually, so nobody's gaining a bit too much on either side, but respect the aggression of Tempo Storm, trying to push off NSJ on that Vala.
Double-edged sword, really, for having an Ariel against the Kel'Thuzad. Of course, the AoE potential on Kel'Thuzad is very strong, and thus Ariel can heal. But as we said, the lack of that cleanse down the line, if those combos have become prevalent from Psalm, can be deadly.
I mean, it can be legitimately 100-0. Some of the highest single-target bursts. I don't want to say spell, because obviously it's a sequence of spells, but when the full rotation is some of the highest damage output that we have in all of Heroes of the Storm. But of course, it's after those blight stacks. The punishment there from NSJ and the members of Deadlykitten on bottom is very real, setting 2 kills now over Tempo Storm.
Really big play there from NSJ, of course, backed up by his team very, very well. But a great anticipatory move to get in there and put pressure on against Kel'Thuzad. And this bottom lane has been a disaster. This is actually extremely bad for Tempo Storm. They need to gain some sense of stability down here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was trying to bring it up a bit before. The pressure that we see Deadlykittens applying is very, very effective into the Kel'Thuzad to be able to stop those blight stacks. Kel'Thuzad does a lot better whenever he is sieging. Yes, he can defend rather effectively. Talking about a brilliant combo. They're bringing them back together. NSJ able to vault right away. But my goodness, that was a very crisp and clean rotation there out of Psalm.
No full action coming out for Psalm, going with the armor of the Archlich, and June managing to sneak in some turning up towards the top. Ragnaros, as well as other members of Deadlykittens, a little bit more busy about what they're just doing in lane. But it doesn't matter too much. No full turn-in just yet here for Tempo Storm. Although looking to put pressure on the bottom lane again. They have to focus on this. They can't let this snowball as hard as it has done so far.
That Tempo Storm, if they're able to achieve a turn-in as well. Kel'Thuzad is one of the best sieging heroes in the game. Fury going to be tossed onto the back line. Deadlykittens going to get that detainment strike back. And that is another kill for Deadlykittens.
That sequence was beautiful.
Absolutely. I mean, shout out to Jinwoo. Anytime a support can be the one to set up a play, I will always be the man to back that one up.
That's right.
Very well done.
And NSJ's Volt out as well. Just perfect stuff to really bait in Fury as far as he went. But now, still the pressure continues on this bottom lane.
Blight stacks are almost rounding 30 already here as we're 4 minutes into the game. That is absolutely ridiculous. So suddenly, we're going to find a situation to where Psalm will be packing a lot more punch with those ice chains and everything of the like.
Yeah, so 4 minutes done.
Yeah, I told you, Psalm on Kel'Thuzad is very, very impressive.
That's for sure. Now, Deadlykittens here looking to try and get a turn in of their own. They may have to look towards the top turn-in point to try and get that accommodated for. But Tempo Storm realizes this. They are actually positioning themselves in such a way that they can try and cover both bases. Tassadar's up towards home. Not sure how many gems he has, but Stronger's going to keep trying down here. Very difficult against Kel'Thuzad.
Yeah, I want to know, oh man, another power slide there, but the knockback puts NSJ in a bad spot. Good pull and flip out of Fury, but it comes at a cost. NSJ down.
Chthon roots were amazing, catching 3 of them there, so Psalm could absolutely go off. More kills rain down. Jinwoo very low, he will fall as well. Triple kill goes over to Tempo Storm, and remember when I had asked for them to get some stability down in the bottom lane? That might have done it for a bit.
Yeah, very well done to be able to get that punishment and bite back here, even netting the turn in there for Cattle up on top. Now, Red Webweaver phase is online, and this is when Kel'Thuzad is going to become a problem. He already has completed his Blight, but it's particularly when he is sieging, because he can chain to his opponent's structures. It is suddenly, anytime he throws his chain onto a target, it's 4 seconds that you want nothing to do with defending your own structures.
Absolutely.
Wow, nice Glacial Spike pullback. That was impressive.
Very, very good stuff. And they haven't even hit level 10, so he doesn't even have his full power yet, does Psalm.
I can only imagine when we see the Shadow Fissure dropped right underneath that here, but Tempo Storm is looking to make a lot happen. Once they take out this front wall, it won't be enough for the 10s, but they surely will round their 10s as this Webweaver faces up. A minimum of 1 fort, and I expect a bit more here out of Tempo Storm with this huge advantage, this colossal window that you typically don't see on a map like Tomb.
Here we go then. Mosh Pit's coming in as well as Twilight Dream for some extra heroic power. And Deadlykittens losing almost their entire front line on this map, on this battleground, losing fort after fort. Going towards boss here, I love it. Why on earth not?
I mean, boss in this type of situation ultimately will gain Tempo Storm something that they maybe wouldn't be able to have at this point in time, and it will waste the Webweaver phase of Deadlykittens if Deadlykittens feels like they need to force this turn-in. But nobody seems to have too much interest there for Deadlykittens, so ultimately not too much gained out of Tempo Storm with this boss. It's not a poor play by any means, but ultimately you have 2 options. You either force the fight somewhere else, or you go for this boss and maybe hope that you see the misplay there, and it's just a heads-up response out of Deadlykittens.
Certainly should be coming down towards the bottom here for Deadlykittens, although that being said, they didn't get enough gems in down there, unfortunately for them, so just cleaning up the boss, trying to get themselves back in a position of power here, as we have Warlord's Challenge, Reign of Vengeance, we have Archon coming in, Crystal Aegis, and Deadlykittens' Lava Wave gets added to the mix to try and push them off the middle fort.
It's going to effectively do so there as it gets the power slide out. Psalm actually taking way too much damage. Confidence. Question if he wants to poke out any farther, but it looks like that is enough for him. Webweaver phase is down, and Tempo Storm is 1 gem away from getting their secondary.
Hate to break it to Trixler's haircut, but that's the most damage that we've seen from Lava Wave to a hero in this tournament so far.
Yeah, that's actually, you are correct. And in fact, it was only because it's such a very, very squishy hero, and, you know, maybe didn't sniff out the Lava Wave as fast as the rest of the members.
He hates me. He absolutely hates me. But that's fine, that's fine. As we have now Tempo Storm cleaning up mid, trying to get themselves a push on towards that middle fort. Because he's so low, why on earth not stronger, though, waiting in the wings?
Deadlykittens should be trying to put an emphasis on looking for this turn-in before the 13 talent tier is there for Tempo Storm. Cat is going to start it off. Chains are enough to deter NSJ from being able to stop that here, but only 23 gems dumped for now here on Tempo Storm's side.
Slowly gaining power is Deadlykittens. You can always be surprised at how much damage Tassadar is able to do with the zoning potential of that Storm. It's 700 stacks at the moment, so gathering up nicely. And, well, They did not get themselves a turn in here, did Deadlykittens, and Tempo Storm controls the map continuously.
It's still not as bad as a traditional game because of the Ragnaros, right? That's something we have to keep in mind. He plays like an Abathur. He changes how the map and where your power spikes are going to be. An interrupt there onto the Glacial Spike pole is going to keep NSJ alive.
One thing that the front line of Deadlykittens has to be careful about before that Molten Core goes down is when they've been chained and they move back. Don't go near Ragnaros, because that can then disrupt that Molten Core from happening. But you've got to be very, very careful about where you're moving at that point.
Absolutely, and you know, oh wow, with the flip attempt there coming out from Garrosh. Aegis dropped, Shadow Fissure immediately after. Nice brew coming out from Cotton Luck. Twilight Dream is dropped, but it looks like Ariel is going to be able to make it out just fine. The Lava Wave used, Glacial Spike is able to pull back Jinwoo, but only 1 kill gained here for Tempo Storm. A lot of fireworks there, but not too much after.
No, not at all. They'll be able to get this middle fort in the end and just clean up top lane as well for Deadlykittens. But other than that, now they are quite behind, to say the least, by Fire Be Purged. One of my favorite heroes in the entire game, Ragnaros. I'm glad we get to see it.
I'm glad that we've gotten to see this much of him as well. I feel like he's been a hero that on initial release, so amazing, so impactful, and then a couple nerfs here and there. I mean, granted, they were substantial nerfs, but his Molten Core, much like Sylvanas' passive, is such a high-impact strategic spell that I did expect him to show up here and there. So it's awesome here at the HGC Finals that we've already gotten ourselves 2 Lava Waves.
Yeah. ETC going into Bloodhound mode there, looking to sniff out some gem turn-ins. Doesn't quite deny it overall.
So one thing I want to bring up here for Deadlykittens with this Webweaver phase is that they are successful whatsoever. They have enough gems to almost back this up with a secondary Webweaver phase. They have done a very, very good job of enabling the mid-game for a double turn-in snowball. And it is not common that you see teams be able to enable that at these later stages. The most important thing, though, is that they cannot risk death while sieging with this Webweaver phase, and you know Tempo is going to look to force these type of fights.
The delay on capturing those camps was beautiful, to not have to care too much about bottom lane and mid lane. So almost everybody can go up to top lane, clean up that Webweaver, and not going to take that much damage. That was a glorious move. Power slides out.
NSJ ate a poison spear and almost sent him down to 0 HP. That's going to draw a lot here of the resources out of the double supported Deadlykittens. They're on now full retreat. Mid and bottom Webweaver still up.
And I think that is a testament to currently how calm Tempo Storm feels in this game. To delay those camps as they did, to say, we are actually so in control of this game, we're going to delay these. We're going to alleviate some of the pressure that we feel is going to be in this Webweaver turn-in and just completely run the show. Very impressive stuff by Tempo Storm there. As they do lose bottom fort, but that's by the by.
And now we find ourselves in a bit of an awkward moment if the double turn-in was the intent here for Deadlykittens, because turning in a Webweaver phase would essentially just be wasted because that 16 talent here. Look at Fury there off to the left, catching out Confidence. He goes for the power slide. Nobody there for the follow-up. Nice knockback, body blocks. And look at that, into the fray, and the pole is going to be able to get the peel.
June looking to the flank so he can put down his totem and kind of stop that retreat out there for the moment. As Stronger under a lot of pressure at the moment. Taunted here by the Warlord's challenge. Ambitious play there to try and get him in a good position. But Confidence will just shift out. And Kel'Thuzad goes down during all of that. That was a crazy fight over the wall.
Yeah, very split and backed out. Cattle got into the 1v1 with Confidence, which, by the way, I want to highlight the fact that Confidence was able to draw aggro out of a Tassadar while Archon is pop, meaning you have the double dimensional shift, you have the survivability, and Tassadar is a hero that's effective at low HP. One of the few that can kind of sit back, give you a shield, and still be very, very high impact. He is one of the best at drawing aggros out of a high burst hero like that. And ultimately, I do feel like Tempo Storm may want to change their scope a smidge there on that Sonya if they're going to be still as dominant as they were for the first couple of minutes of this game.
And the fact that nullification is here as well for Tassadar means that, eventually Sonya gets a little bit more lackluster if she's wanting to dive in and really kind of put on some pressure here. So Deadlykittens by no means out of this game just yet.
And the biggest thing there is, because that skirmish happened, it kind of stalled out the experience of the trickle down here for Deadlykittens to get the 16 within the window that they have this Webweaver phase and not be afraid of Tempo Storm or waste their gems. This is a very convenient skirmish that they found themselves in, and now they need to look to reap the rewards.
And they've caught back up.
They have, very much so, and we still have a Molten Core available to be able to deter the next Webweaver phase on the side of Tempo Storm. My biggest thought process now is who's going to get the boss? Who is going to prime themselves best to be able to pick that up?
And one of the best targets that they could eventually anticipate picking up for Tempo Storm is something like a Valor if she steps too far forwards, but Gloom is there to be able to assist in surviving the onslaught that is Kel'Thuzad, so that's nice.
It's nice, but it feels like, again, it's just a smidge. It's
A
not
smidge.
enough to be able to do it. Like, even greater spell shield and as Lunara, and I'm still sitting there going like, this guy stings. Way too much damage there. But overall, Kel'Thuzad, he's been, Psalm on that hero has put on a really good showing with the chains and coordination here. And for, again, the first couple of minutes, it has been effective. It's just that we've kind of hit a lull here between the two teams. After Deadlykittens gained that momentum back, now both are kind of sitting there going, what is the win condition? And here, how can we make sure that we set ourselves up the best?
At least for Tempo Storm, they have a full turn in if they can grasp at it. It's Deadlykittens at the moment, just slowing things down, going back to their night camp. Looks like there may be a skirmish up towards the top in a few moments.
The camp being picked up automatically indicates to Tempo Storm that there is 100% obviously somebody in that section, but because they had retreated to their own night camp, can't maybe take advantage of that. That's oftentimes competitively, if you assume that they're on that section of the map and you start a major objective, the minute you see that, you're like, okay, now complete it all in and focus. Talking about all in, a boss up here, Shadowfisher actually got the reveal.
It did, yeah, so that's a big deal. They're going to have to back out from that. I was going to say, like a lull in the action for a moment because these two teams understand the consequences of what could occur here, but the fact that that was able to be scouted out, very important there for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, you can see that they very much have the same thought process as myself. Boss is going to be a very scary thing, and without enough gems for Deadlykittens, there's not much left for them to do on the map. 59 gems are turned in here for Tempo Storm, but Kotha gets flipped. That's Malfurion in a bad spot. He gets taunted. Ice block canceled. Ancestral connects.
Oh, very good save there. Stronger is going to have to back on out. He's not enough health to be able to continue on that push. Fury wasn't there to be able to continue with that full turn in there for Tempo Storm. So this fight is going to continue on. Good chains at the moment. Big AoE damage being going down. But Fury in the backlines now, being thrown in by Garrosh. And going to have to use the Crystal Aegis on Auriel himself.
Cattle's getting chased down by NSJ. No vault there. Lava Wave coming through, trying to get the follow-up there, the alley-oop, but everybody able to make it out of the way. Deadlykittens using the space created, but the punishment is there. The Mosh Pit follow-up.
Fury absolutely catching them completely off guard after that kill. That's a double as they look for more here on towards Ragnaros. Envy are trying to get out, uses the hand first to try and keep himself alive as much as possible, but no, he goes down. 3 kills for Tempo Storm.
And Tempo Storm now has the world at their disposal. They are going to be able to pick themselves up this boss. They are going to lock in this next Webweaver phase, and now we are maybe moments away here from Tempo Storm taking this game.
We definitely are, and gotta give a tip of the hat to Psalm being able to catch Garrosh when he did, because that caused utter chaos in the ranks of Deadlykittens.
It's actually very important that Tempo Storm makes sure all of those minions get killed just so this Webweaver phase does not stall out there. If those 2 minions had made it long enough to get that Webweaver phase so far back from this boss, it's suddenly what was almost a win or a game suddenly goes, we can only get a keep and we just lost a win condition.
The best way is you drop them down right next to each other, and that's a lot of power behind it, as Deadlykittens right now doesn't even have a huge amount of AoE damage to try and cleave through all of that. Oh, and they're not able to stop it out. The Molten Core is going to be very impactful.
Garrosh,
very, very low. Does not get hit by the Shadow Fissure, and looks like Confidence is going to get out towards the top, but this is still a lot of power.
There's still so many... the boss, the Webweaver's here. This is very scary for Deadlykittens. They're going to find Cattle, flip him in. The chains are dropped along with the taunt, but the boss is ignoring them. They're going for the core.
Taunt does nothing. Taunt does nothing here. They're not able to get the power on towards Cattle. He's going to sit on the core here, and Tempo Storm drops the shields. They know that they've done it here, as this core is going to fall. The boss could finish it alone. Tempo Storm 2-1 against Deadlykittens, keeping the hopes alive here in Group A.
Very impressive games there coming out from Tempo Storm. There was a lot of questions and a lot of doubt from everyone, all the analysis here. But they showed that they still have the strength that they flaunted at the playoffs for North America. Sadly, sending home here Deadlykittens after their second loss in this, and having them come here and perform at the level they did, I was pleasantly surprised, but ultimately, it's competitive. Somebody's got to be a winner, someone's got to be a loser, and today, Tempo's that winner.
And where was Tempo Storm's strength? It was in the wild cards. It was in the Kerrigan, of all things. It was in the Kel'Thuzad. Psalm was able to play it well.
Yeah, he absolutely was. He was bringing out the flavor for Tempo Storm here. We, again, doubted him and very much made us eat our words pleasantly so. 4 minutes getting maximum stacks on that Kel'Thuzad Blight and really highlighting the boss whenever the backdoor attempt there for Deadlykittens. Really, I mean, now thinking about it, Psalm truly maybe the MVP of that series.
2-1 series for Tempo Storm. Let's head over to the analysis desk to see what they think about the whole best of 3.
Thank you, guys. Tempo Storm lives for now, but they are by far not out of the woods yet. They still have one more opponent to go through if they want to make it to the top 8 at BlizzCon. But we got to give a shout out to Deadlykittens. They came in, they had a new roster, 2 new players, they had a new shot color, Jay Howe, and looked really good today. They brought a lot of plays.
It actually surprised me. I didn't know where my expectations would lie with that team. Obviously, I was able to cast them during their regionals. You know, I was sitting in on scrims, things like that, trying to see what they were bringing to the table. I was actually pleasantly surprised. They showed up on game day. Unfortunately, they do drop out here against Tempo, but big props to them. I've probably seen this team more than anybody, and I'm still surprised that they played as well as they did. They just came up a little bit short.
For me, I think I'm looking at Tempo already for the next phase, and I'm thinking whoever is drafting for Tempo Storm needs to walk up to Solomon and say, what do you want to play? Seriously, set that guy up and enable him for the next round, and then go and get ready for the next couple of matches if you're able to get through it. Because Psalm has came alive. He is looking great in the last couple of games there. Having the Blight Quest done before 4 minutes is bonkers.
Isn't he drafting? Am I wrong here?
I think it's kind of a group
Cattle
effort.
and,
Like the last time-
it's Cattle and Psalm, right?
The last time I talked to them, I think they said that he's currently having the biggest influence on the draft,
And
actually.
he's looking down inside
yeah.
himself. What do I want to play
What do I
today?
want to play
And get it
today?
done.
Let me think about this
Okay,
for a
Self.
second. I feel like Kel'Thuzad.
Because
Well-
it was impressive.
We have some available for a winner's interview, so let's head down to the stage with Cloakin and see what he has to say about that series.
Thank you so much, JC. That is right. I'm here with Assassin player from Tempo Storm. This is Psalm. Psalm, help me get into the mindset of your team after a Game 1 loss like that against Deadlykittens. What was going on in comms? How did you guys get your mindset together going into Game 2?
I think my team's always been pretty good at not tilting and keeping our mindset straight. The biggest thing, or the biggest problem that we have, is translating our scrim experience and our previous match experience into LAN play. So we've been playing a lot better, not during a tournament, so we need to do a better job of really translating that experience and all the practice we've been putting in.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk a little bit about hero picks. We saw some really interesting choices there going into Game 2, and I have to admit we had some negative Nancy's there over at the analyst desk, looking at that Kerrigan pick, as well as the prioritization around Malthael, and then, of course, the Kel'Thuzad in Game 3. Talk to me about that Kerrigan pick, though, specifically. What was going on with your team? Is that just a comfort pick? You knew it was a strat that you guys could lean into. What was going on with your team there?
I think those heroes that we picked, if they're played well and they're executed well, it can catch teams off guard. So, I mean, it's just heroes I've been practicing in Hero League, and we just ran it today.
Well, you played them fantastically. You definitely, helped check some of the analysts a little bit today with your play. And now let's talk a little bit about the next matchup. Obviously, you're not home free yet. You got to get to BlizzCon. One more victory needed to secure that seat. CE, we've seen some strong play from them. What are your expectations going into that match, and how do you ready yourselves for that one?
CE was a lot stronger than we anticipated. We've been scrimming a couple of Chinese teams here, but none of them, in my opinion, have been as strong as CE. But keep in mind that first match for CE, even if we won it, we would have had to play against MVP Black anyways. So chances are we probably would have had to play CE twice. So we didn't feel like we had to show too much, or so hopefully this one goes better.
Absolutely. Well, good luck, and we'll look forward to watching. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, Tempo Storm hangs on. They will match up against CE coming up very soon. Stick with us. Just a short break.